Good afternoon. I'm Karan Bilamoria, proud to be president of the CBI, and it's wonderful to be here in Birmingham today at Advance's offices for our first on-the-road pan-UK annual conference. 3 days, several locations, 25 sessions, 67 speakers. And Advance, thank you so much for hosting us. You're a dynamic UK software business with over 2,700 employees around the world, providing mission-critical enterprise and market-focused software. Just last week, the CBI had our Midlands annual dinner, and last month, I visited the region and hosted our first face-to-face dinner with businesses from all sectors and sizes. And I want to thank our regional director, Rick Blackmore, and his wonderful team, including Hannah, for all the help in organizing today. So diversity is what this region is all about. Cities, famous cities like Birmingham, where we are, and Coventry, and Leicester, and Nottingham, and rural communities, but also the different types of businesses and sectors, from manufacturing and automotive to hospitality, and of course, our fantastic universities. And I'm very proud that for 7 years, I've been Chancellor of the University of Birmingham, where my mother studied, and my grandfather studied, and my uncle studied. So I'm following in the family tradition. As well as the huge diversity, the Midlands has enormous opportunity looking ahead. Our global profile is just being raised day by day. We've had Coventry, City of Culture in 2021, and next year we've got the Commonwealth Games, the Birmingham Commonwealth Games 2022, and the university is going to be playing a major part in that with hockey and squash and the Athletes' Village, the majority of it taking place. And the baton relay is going on around the world to 74 territories and countries of the Commonwealth, and we'll be in India in January, and I'll be there with the baton in India. And when it comes to laying the foundations of UK's competitiveness, the Midlands is right there in the mix, ready to lead the way. On trade, the Midlands is already responsible for 22% of England's exports, the greatest share of any region. The growth in inward investment here is beating that of the rest of the UK, hands down. And on innovation, skills, and inclusion, the Midlands has the knowledge, the experience, and the potential to take both its established and emerging clusters of expertise in automotive, tech, energy, health, from good to truly great. And by the way, I can vouch for this. I was at COP26 for 1.5 weeks out of the 2 weeks, and the highlight of my visit was chairing a meeting on the world's first retrofitted hydrogen-powered train, Hydroflex. And that was developed by the University of Birmingham, starting as a student research project in 2012, and now a world first, but in collaboration with Porterbrook, the rolling stock company, and Innovate UK, the government's finance. A real collaboration between government, academia, and business to be a world's first from Birmingham right here. So today, it is my great pleasure to announce one of our keynote speakers of the CBI conference, the leader of the opposition, Sir Keir Starmer, MP. He qualified at the bar, had a distinguished career as a lawyer, including 5 years as the Director of Public Prosecutions. He was elected to the House of Commons in 2015, very quickly promoted to the Labour's front bench, Shadow Immigration Minister, then 3.5 years as Shadow Brexit Secretary, and since April last year, he has served as leader of the Labour Party. It's been a privilege for me to have known Keir for many years, well before his current role, and the relationship between business and the Labour Party has, without exaggeration, gone from strength to strength. Labour's ambitions to decarbonise the economy, build a better future for everyone through improving education are shared by business. Lifelong learning is the bedrock of productivity, growth, and in turn, rising wages. Commitments on R&D spending, investment, and digital skills signal an understanding of core business priorities essential for delivering a dynamic and future-focused economy. So, Keir, I really enjoyed my visit to your annual conference in Brighton earlier this year, and thank you and your party for your hospitality to the business community. Today, it is my pleasure to welcome you today to our annual conference. Ladies and gentlemen, Leader of the Labour Party, the Leader of the Opposition, Sir Keir Starmer, MP.
Thank you so much, Lord Bellamoria, and good afternoon to everybody in the room. It's really fantastic to be here, to see so many of you in the flesh, and after 18 months of living in a virtual world, I'm really liking the idea of giving speeches to live audiences, so really, really fantastic to see you. My message for today to you is clear. As I said in my conference speech, the Labour Party conference speech, Labour is back in business. The dual meaning of this is entirely deliberate. We are, and we always were, the party of work. Founded in the workplace, we're the party of working people. And that means that Labour is also the party of business. The first annual report of the CBI, back in 1965, made a point that I think still stands today. The whole future of Britain, it reported, rests on the success of industry. Industry must be dynamic, competitive and profitable to compete in an ever-increasingly competitive world. Those words, half a century ago, could have been written yesterday. Britain is not as dynamic, as competitive and profitable as we need to be. And today I want to discuss how we can create a contract together to put that right. In a way, we've always been bound together, the Labour Party and the CBI. The CBI was founded, at least in part, as a response to a Labour government. Your commemorative book, many of you will have seen that commemorative book, called The CBI, 50 Years of Business Innovation, notes that the radical policies of the Wilson government resulted in sharply divided tactics amongst your members. Today, I want to give you a flavour of a future radical Labour government that will not provoke division. Because if you get above the political fray and survey the British economy over a longer time frame, we have a familiar and a persistent problem. We still haven't cracked productivity. Now, I heard what the Prime Minister said this morning, but I'm afraid that even before the pandemic, Britain went through the worst decade of productivity growth since the Industrial Revolution. The worst decade. Now, that is staggering. Now, of course, the government has its own answer to the productivity problem. He's called Geoffrey Cox. But we might need a little bit more than that. Now, it's not as if we don't know the answer. We need increased business investment and better capital stock and improved infrastructure. We need to embrace new technology. We need to lift our export performance. We need cities outside of the southeast to become economic powerhouses, which is why it was so devastating to see the government rip up its promises in relation to HS2 and the Northern Powerhouse Rail. These are not just train lines. They're lifelines for businesses and commuters. And it's not just a betrayal of the North, it's a betrayal of the economic potential of those regions, denying them the growth that your Director General, Tony Danker, has championed so effectively, including in his speech this morning. And if we're really serious about improving productivity, then most of all, we need to invest in our people to ensure they have the skills that are right for the modern economy. After the pandemic and after Brexit, We need a national reset. The business community and the political world need to work together. We both have a job to do. That job is to remake Britain. And that means remaking Britain's economy so that it's fit for purpose and fit for the future. Now, relations between politics and business have not always been warm. The Prime Minister himself has not exactly been complimentary. I can promise you that the only F words I will be using are foreign investment, fair trade, fiscal policy and fiduciary duty. I know that we have bridges to build. And I want to start that dialogue with you today. I want to start that conversation by thanking you for the part you've played, especially in the last 18 months, where your incredible resilience and hard work helped protect livelihoods and communities. Your leadership made a real difference. And I think, and I'm sure you share this, that the reputation of our businesses has been enhanced by what you've done in the last 18 months, 2 years. So let me describe how I see my side of the contract. Getting our economy to grow, getting to grips with the problem of productivity, and giving business a generation of young people ready for work. Any contract, of course, needs to be based on stability in tax policy, in regulation, and the terms of trade. You want as much certainty as you can get. You want independent institutions, treaties that are respected, contracts that are enforced. After COVID and Brexit, our public finances are in a fragile state. In her recent speech, Rachel Reeves, my brilliant Shadow Chancellor, made her commitment to fiscal discipline abundantly clear. Our 5 fiscal rules made it plain that we will never spend money just for the sake of it. We really don't think that the solution to every problem is to throw cash at it. And just as every one of you scrutinises the cost side of your business, constantly asking if investments are paying off, we'll do the same on behalf of the tax-paying public. The problem we face today is that we have no industrial strategy, no business plan. The budget, the recent budget, was an opportunity to address that and remake Britain. But it was an opportunity that was missed. In Tony Danker's own words, he said it isn't bold enough to deliver the high investment, high productivity economy the government seeks. I think putting a cap on investment, as the government has, is a false economy. It's a cap on ambition and a cap on productivity. And there's nothing that suggests a government getting to grips with the scale of the challenge. And you can see all around what happens when a government has no plan. It's happening now. Prices going up. Energy getting more expensive. Taxes rising £3,000 more per household by 2026. £3,000. And with the effects of Brexit and COVID working together, a shortage of labour. And the really irritating thing about this is it was all so predictable. Lord Buro himself warned, I think, in June about the perfect storm of economic problems that was brewing. He pointed, I think, to HGV and to the drivers, as well as butchers, brewers and welders. It's the same in professional services and the same in manufacturing. This is, in part, about Brexit, because the government thinks all it has to do is say the words, "Get Brexit done." It has absolutely no plan to make Brexit work. Let me be clear. Labour is not planning a rematch. Brexit has happened, and we're not going to rejoin. But it's obvious that a poorly thought-through Brexit is holding Britain back. It's astonishing to see a government that negotiated a treaty now complaining that the deal they signed doesn't work. Wait till the Prime Minister finds out who negotiated the Northern Ireland Protocol. I wish he would stop picking fights for the sake of it and just get on with it. Labour will work with you with business on this. We should carry out a transparent and honest analysis together of all the holes in the Prime Minister's deal. We need to work out how we can fill them, and fast, without the risk of trade wars, without erecting further barriers to cooperation with our allies, and without the need for even more years of painful negotiations. Now, of course, decisions that have been made must be respected, and negotiations will be tough. And this is a message to both sides of the Channel. We all have a duty to make Brexit work. So bear with me as I give you some concrete examples of what we would do. We would negotiate a new veterinary agreement for trade in agri products. Now, this would have two benefits. First, it would help to get through the impasse over the Northern Ireland Protocol. Second, it would cut red tape and barriers for exporters across the United Kingdom. Labour would also look to find an agreement on mutual recognition of conformity assessments across all sectors. That would mean that our producers would no longer have to complete two sets of tests. There would be no need for two certification processes to sell goods in both the UK and the EU. We would also seek regulatory equivalence for financial services and mutual recognition of professional qualifications, because we absolutely recognise the importance of looking after our world-class financial and professional service businesses. We would also seek to maintain Britain's data adequacy status. That would mean that our data protection rules would continue to be deemed equivalent to those in the EU, which would, in turn, make UK digital services companies more competitive. And finally, we would seek a better long-term deal for UK hauliers to ease the supply chain problems we're seeing. Now, this is a plan that follows closely what many of you have told me is needed to move us towards the closer trading arrangement that we need with the EU. I believe that all of this is achievable by robustly defending our interests and patiently negotiating. But you will all know this. There's one further element: leadership. Trust matters in international negotiations. But with this Prime Minister, that ingredient is missing. Instead, what do we get? We get a series of pantomime disputes, which is no good for British business, nor for the British public, and no help at all as we tackle the task of remaking Britain. So let me come to where the government most needs to keep its side of the contract, to ensure that our people get the skills that they need. The battle for talent will be one of the defining issues of the 21st century. As I travel around the country talking to businesses, I'm constantly struck by how often I'm told about the skills shortages. A recent survey I saw showed that 80% of businesses were worried about skills. The world has changed, you know this. The demand of skills has changed. Business leaders tell me that the skills we need today to be more productive are critical thinking, creativity, communication, and the ability to work in a team. And it's long been my view that we just don't value technical and vocational skills nearly enough. So it's no wonder that this country does much worse in computer skills than our economic rivals. No wonder that fewer than half of employers believe young people have the digital skills required. Think of all the students that we effectively abandon at the age of 18. 40% leave education without essential qualifications. 40%. A lot of these students could really flourish if they received a high-quality technical training. Yet, funding per student in further education and sixth form colleges has fallen by 11% in real terms since 2010. And that's why today I'm announcing my new Council of Skills Advisors. David Blunkett, working along with the tech entrepreneur Praful Nargund and the skills expert Rachel Sanby-Thomas, to recommend the change we need to ensure everyone leaves education job-ready and life-ready. My council will explore how to ensure that young people are literate in the technology of the day. That's why we would add digital skills to the basics of reading, writing and arithmetic. That's how seriously we take digital skills. And I also want my council to advise me on how we can lift the sights of all pupils. We must encourage their ambition and be more ambitious for them. In my own constituency, there's a wonderful school, primary school, called Rill Primary School, which runs a great programme called Raising Aspirations. Employers like Mercedes, Derwent, Google, the Ritz, the Crick Institute inspire the children to think about the jobs they might do, jobs they might never have considered before or even heard of. Just recently, the kids met Lewis Hamilton to learn about engineering, where we have a significant skills shortage. I can't tell you what a difference this kind of thing does. Better skills are vital if we're to improve productivity and economic growth. That's why getting the next generation ready for work will be my mission as leader of the Labour Party. So, skills policy is the first line in the first chapter of Labour's plan for good business. It's a plan that I want you all to be part of. It's a plan that will include a policy for start-ups. We would create 100,000 new businesses over the next 5 years by boosting the start-up loan scheme. And let me turn to business rates, because we know we can't achieve the investment we need if the tax burden is not fair. The Conservatives promised fundamental reform of business rates 4 times, and each time all we got was tinkering around the edges. Well, Labour will not just walk around the problem. We will scrap and we will replace business rates with a much fairer alternative to incentivise investment. And we want public bodies to give more contracts to British firms. Those contracts will raise social and environmental standards. Our buy, make and sell more in Britain policy will weigh not just the cost and quality of a contract, but also the value that it brings to our communities. Make it here. That is how we will remake Britain. Now, we're meeting here a week or so after the limited progress made at COP26 in Glasgow. It's obvious we need to do more if we're to protect our planet. That is our solemn duty. But when I think of the climate crisis, I don't just think of a duty, I think of a huge opportunity. Like Joe Biden, when I think climate crisis, I think jobs. If we invest in manufacturing electrical vehicles, if we increase investment in our ports and finally turn our world-leading status in offshore wind into jobs, then the future can be green, fair and prosperous. That is why Labour is committed to the investment needed. Our climate investment pledge amounts to £28 billion a year until 2030. We would commit £6 billion over a decade to upgrade every home that needs it. That creates about 500,000 jobs. In the workplace, we would help fund the investment in the gigafactories we need for electric car manufacturing. What we need now is a sector-by-sector plan for the car industry, for the steel industry, for all industry. Our competitors are already doing this, and we can't afford not to. So that's our side of the contract, to run a stable government and a tight ship, to equip the next generation for work, to invest in British business, and to create a wave of high-skilled jobs. Of course, on your side of the contract, there are responsibilities too. To invest in the long term rather than the short term. To contribute as we strive towards net zero. To contribute to your local communities, which I know many of you are doing. To support your workforce with fair pay and flexible working. When I was reflecting on this opportunity to speak to you today, I thought of my dad. He was a skilled industrial worker, a toolmaker in a factory. And the thing I remember from my dad most of all is how hard he worked, his industry. Now, your organisation and mine both have a synonym for work in our titles: industry and labour. That is why we must work together to remake Britain for the future. Our mutual interest, our shared passion, to use the full potential of our nation, to maximise the contribution we can all make. The next government will inherit a big job to get Britain fit for the future. I'm looking forward to working with you to remake Britain. Thank you very much. Now, I think we're going to take questions, and if this works, we're going to Helen Ann Smith at Sky virtually first. Helen, I can see you. I hope you can hear me. And